In this quiet space of Dreamtime Science, we turn down the volume of the universe to hear its subtlest secrets. Let's explore the cosmos at the perfect pace for peaceful contemplation. You know what's fascinating? That strange feeling when you walk into a room and suddenly you feel like you've been there before, even though you know you haven't. I've been thinking about déjà vu lately. Not just the feeling itself, but what it might tell us about how our minds work in such a quiet, mysterious way. There's something remarkable about how our brains weave memories and moments together, and tonight I'm excited to share some gentle discoveries about what's really going on behind that curious sense of familiarity. If this peaceful blend of science and serenity helps ease your evening, consider joining our community of gentle learners. Share your favorite moment of scientific awe in the comments. Take this moment to settle in, wrap yourself in comfort, release the day's weight from your shoulders, and let your breath become as gentle as starlight. There is a peculiar hush that falls over the mind in the moments after déjà vu. A soft, uncanny silence, as though the world has paused to let us peer beyond the veil of reality. You know the sensation. You walk into a room, smell the faintest trace of perfume, or hear a fragment of laughter, and a ripple passes through your consciousness. You are certain, with a conviction as sharp as it is unprovable, that you have been here before, not in a vague, ordinary way, but in this precise instant, with these exact circumstances. Yet logic, memory, and reason all protest. This cannot be. Still, the sensation lingers, haunting and bright, as if a glitch has flickered through the machinery of your mind, or perhaps through the fabric of reality itself. This feeling, so brief and so profound, has haunted humanity for as long as we have been able to name our experiences. The French phrase déjà vu, meaning already seen, entered our lexicon in the late 19th century, but the phenomenon itself is as old as thought. It is a ripple in our sense of time's arrow, a moment when the present feels doubled, tangled with echoes from a life not quite our own. The sensation has inspired poets and philosophers. It has unsettled children and confounded the wise. And in the quiet hours before sleep, it can feel as though the universe itself is whispering in riddles. Culture has always been eager to fill such mysteries with meaning. In the age before neuroscience, déjà vu was a signpost for the supernatural. Some said it was proof of reincarnation, the memory of a soul's prior journey leaking into the present. Others whispered that it was an omen, a warning from the future, or the mark of a dream come true. Among spiritualists, déjà vu was sometimes taken as evidence that our lives are guided by fate, that we are walking a path already traced in the stars, and these moments of recognition are the universe's way of reminding us that our story is written. Yet, as the modern world turned its gaze to science and technology, déjà vu did not lose its allure. Instead, it transformed and found new homes in the collective imagination. The sensation became the province of storytellers, filmmakers, and writers of speculative fiction who saw in it a portal, a crack in reality, a chance to ask, what if the world is not what it seems? What if behind the everyday there is code? What if the sense of repetition is not just a trick of the mind, but a clue to a deeper, stranger order? Few works have captured this idea with such vivid clarity as the film The Matrix. In the shadowy world conjured by the Wachowski siblings, déjà vu is not merely a passing oddity, but a sign of error rippling through the artificial simulation in which the characters are trapped. There is a famous scene. Neo, the film's protagonist, is climbing a staircase in a derelict building when he glimpses a black cat saunter across the landing. A moment later, he sees the same cat performing the same movements in precisely the same place. Déjà vu, he mutters, almost to himself. The air in the room changes. The others freeze, their faces darkening with dread. A déjà vu is usually a glitch in the matrix, Trinity explains, her voice low. It happens when they change something. This moment, so quietly unsettling, has left an indelible mark on popular culture. It asks us to imagine our world as a simulation, a vast computer program running with perfect fidelity, except when it stutters and déjà vu slips in. The sensation becomes a clue that reality is not seamless, that something is being concealed or rewritten. In the logic of the film, déjà vu is the signature of an artificial world, a world in which reality can be edited on the fly, and the mind's sense of continuity is the only protection against being lost in the labyrinth. It is a powerful metaphor, one that resonates far beyond the movie's shimmering green code. For what is déjà vu if not a kind of glitch, a sudden doubling, a moment in which the ordinary rules falter and we are left with a fleeting sense of unreality? Films, books, and television shows have returned to this idea again and again, spinning stories in which déjà vu is the key to hidden dimensions, to parallel universes, or to disturbances in the flow of time. The allure of these stories is not hard to fathom. Our lives are built on the presumption of continuity, of cause and effect, of a world that unfolds according to the familiar laws of physics. Déjà vu is a gentle rebellion against this order, a whisper that perhaps, just perhaps, the world is stranger than it appears. It is a reminder of how thin the membrane is between certainty and doubt, between what we know and what we merely believe. From the earliest days of science fiction, writers have mined déjà vu for its narrative potential. H.G. Wells, in his short story The Door in the Wall, imagines a man haunted by memories of a hidden garden glimpsed only in dreams, a place that promises escape from the mundane. Philip K. Dick, the philosopher king of paranoia and multiplicity, filled his novels with moments of temporal doubling and fractured memory, suggesting that reality itself is slippery, provisional, and prone to rewriting. In Dick's universe, the feeling of having lived a moment before is not a trick of the mind, but a symptom of something deeper, a crack in the world, a glimpse into a parallel timeline. This idea has only grown stronger as our scientific understanding of the universe has deepened. The notion of parallel universes, once the province of mystics and mathematicians, has become a subject of serious inquiry. In the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every decision, every quantum event splits the universe into branches, countless, unfathomable realities, each as real as our own. The multiverse, that grand and dizzying idea, suggests that somewhere, in some alternate strand of reality, you have indeed lived this moment before, and the sense of déjà vu is a ghostly echo, a moment of resonance between worlds. Science fiction has seized upon this, weaving tales in which déjà vu is the residue of these crossings. In some stories, the sensation is a byproduct of travel between universes, a side effect of having memories that belong to another self. In others, it is a sign that the boundaries between realities are thin, and that the walls separating one life from another are porous, leaky, and uncertain. The feeling of familiarity becomes a signal, a message from another you, living a life that almost, but not quite, mirrors your own. Even outside of fiction, the language of glitches and simulations has crept into our everyday metaphors. We speak of breaking the fourth wall, of resetting our lives, of rebooting after trauma or change. The language of code has become a way to describe the ineffable, to capture the sense that reality is not always as solid as it appears. For a generation raised on computers and virtual worlds, the idea that the world could be a simulation, that déjà vu is a sign of an error in the program, feels less like fantasy and more like a philosophical possibility. The popularity of these ideas is not just a testament to the power of storytelling, it is also a reflection of our deepest anxieties and hopes, We long for meaning, for signs that we are not adrift in a meaningless cosmos. Déjà vu, in its sudden strangeness, offers a kind of comfort, a suggestion that there is a pattern beneath the surface, that our lives are not random, but connected to something larger. Even if that something is a vast computer simulation, there is a reassurance in the idea that our experiences are part of a design, however mysterious. Yet there is also a darker current beneath these fantasies. The idea of a simulated world, of a reality that can be edited or erased, raises unsettling questions about free will, identity, and the nature of consciousness. If déjà vu is a glitch, what does that say about the authenticity of our memories, our choices, our very selves? Are we, like Neo, prisoners in a world of illusion, or are we the architects of our own reality, shaping the world with every decision? The sensation of déjà vu, so brief and so strange, becomes a doorway to these larger questions, a sliver of dew, up that compels us to ask, what is real, what is imagined, where does one end and the other begin? The Matrix metaphor, with its green rain of code and its agents lurking in every shadow, is only the most vivid expression of a much older impulse. Human beings have always sensed that the world is more than what it seems, that there are patterns and connections hidden beneath the surface. Déjà vu is a flash of this hidden order, a reminder that the universe is layered, complex, and full of secrets. Whether we see it as a glitch, a message, or a mere peculiarity of the brain, it invites us to look closer, to question the boundaries of our perception. As the night deepens and the mind drifts toward sleep, the sensation of déjà vu can feel like a dream half-remembered, a story told in fragments and echoes. It is a moment out of time, a pause in the relentless flow of experience, when the familiar becomes strange and the strange becomes familiar. In these moments, the imagination is free to wander, to explore the possibility that our world is but one of many, that our lives are woven into a cosmic tapestry more intricate than we can fathom. The stories we tell about déjà vu are, in a sense, stories about ourselves, about our yearning for connection, our fear of isolation, our hope that the universe is meaningful. They are an attempt to make sense of the inexplicable, to find order in chaos, to glimpse the machinery behind the curtain. Whether we call it a glitch, a memory, or a mystery, the sensation remains, a gentle trembling at the edge of awareness, a hint that there is more to this life than meets the eye. And so, as you settle into the comfort of your bed, as the quiet of the room wraps around you like a soft blanket, let your mind linger for a moment on that peculiar, haunting feeling. Let it remind you that the world is vast, mysterious, and full of wonder. There are questions yet to be asked, secrets waiting in the shadows, and perhaps, just perhaps, other versions of yourself wandering through parallel halls, pausing at the same threshold, struck by the same sense of having been here before. In the next quiet instant, when the sensation returns, when the world wavers and the present doubles back on itself, remember that you are not alone in this experience. Across time and culture, across the boundaries of fiction and reality, countless others have felt the same ripple, heard the same silent question. It is a thread that binds us, a common curiosity, a fascination with the unknown. And as you drift further into the night, the story of déjà vu continues, winding deeper into the labyrinth of science, memory, and the mind. For if déjà vu is a glitch, then what is the nature of the system that glitches? What is the machinery behind the illusion? What, in the end, is reality itself? The answers lie just out of reach, hovering at the edge of consciousness, waiting to be explored. If you have ever felt the uncanny sensation that a moment is unfolding for a second time, as if the world has quietly doubled back on itself, then you have brushed against the edges of one of the mind's most beguiling puzzles, déjà vu. The words themselves, French for already seen, hint at a mysterious doubling of experience, a fleeting overlap between the present and some ill-defined memory. For centuries, this phenomenon has thrummed at the borders of science and superstition, inspiring tales of past lives, parallel worlds, and psychic echoes. Yet as we now know, the source of this strange familiarity lies not in the mystical, but deep within the labyrinthine folds of the human brain. Let us descend, then, into the mind's labyrinth. Here, in this living cathedral of tissue and electricity, billions of neurons flicker with signals, orchestrating perception, memory, and thought. The brain is not a monolithic organ, but a sprawling continent of specialized regions, each with its own dialect of electrical rhythms, each contributing its unique thread to the tapestry of consciousness. It is here, within these tangled circuits, that déjà vu is spun, a brief and subtle glitch in the machinery of recognition. To understand how such an experience arises, we must first appreciate how the brain constructs our sense of familiarity and novelty. Every waking moment, our senses deliver a torrent of information: the glint of light on a window pane, the cadence of a voice, the scent of earth after rain. This sensory flood must be sifted, sorted, and woven into coherent experience. Somewhere along this process, the mind must distinguish between what is new and what is known, what demands attention and what can be safely ignored. This is the domain of memory, and more specifically of recognition memory, a subtle faculty that operates largely below the threshold of awareness. Recognition memory is divided into two strands: recollection and familiarity. Recollection is the vivid retrieval of context, the ability to summon the details of a past event with clarity. Familiarity, by contrast, is more diffuse, a gentle sense that something has been encountered before, shorn of specifics. Déjà vu, as it turns out, is thought to arise when these two strands become uncoupled, when the machinery for detecting familiarity fires, but the machinery for retrieving context does not. The neural epicenter of recognition lies within the medial temporal lobes, a pair of structures that nestle deep within each hemisphere of the brain. Among these, the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure, stands as a central hub for episodic memory, binding together sights, sounds, and emotions into unified episodes. Flanking the hippocampus are the parahippocampal and perirhinal cortices, regions that specialize in different aspects of recognition. The perirhinal cortex, in particular, is thought to signal the raw sense of familiarity, while the hippocampus is necessary for vivid recollection. But the labyrinth does not end there. The temporal lobes feed their output forward to the prefrontal cortex, that uniquely human expanse at the front of the brain, which weighs, interprets, and integrates. The prefrontal cortex is the great conductor, setting priorities, making inferences, deciding what is real and what is imagined. Déjà vu, it seems, may be born of a fleeting miscommunication between these regions, a neural slip in which the signal for familiarity arrives unaccompanied by its proper context. Modern neuroscience has begun to illuminate this process in exquisite detail. Functional MRI scans, which measure blood flow as a proxy for neural activity, have shown that the perirenal cortex often lights up during déjà vu experiences, even as the hippocampus remains comparatively quiet. This suggests that the sensation of familiarity is being triggered independently, without the grounding anchor of specific memory. It is as though the mind is whispering, "I know this, but cannot say why." Intriguingly, this neural dissonance can be artificially induced. In rare cases, patients with epilepsy who undergo surgical exploration of the brain, electrodes delicately implanted to map the origins of their seizures, have reported intense déjà vu when electrical currents are passed through the medial temporal lobe. In these moments, the world seems to double. The present becomes eerily overlaid with a sense of prior experience. The fact that such feelings can be evoked by direct stimulation of the brain provides strong evidence that déjà vu is a physiological phenomenon, not a supernatural one. Other clues come from the study of temporal lobe epilepsy itself, a condition in which abnormal bursts of electrical activity ripple through the very regions implicated in memory. Those who live with this condition often report frequent and intense déjà vu, sometimes preceding a seizure. Here, the threshold for triggering the sensation is lowered, suggesting that déjà vu is a byproduct of the brain's memory machinery becoming hyperexcitable, its circuits firing out of turn. But déjà vu is not solely the province of pathology. Healthy brains, too, are susceptible to this subtle trick of the mind. It is most common in young adults, particularly those between the ages of 15 and 25, and tends to decline with age. Why should this be so? One theory holds that the brain's memory circuits are at their most plastic during youth, constantly forming and pruning connections as we learn and adapt. This very plasticity may make the system more prone to momentary glitches, a fleeting overlap of signals, a misfire of familiarity. Some researchers have proposed that déjà vu is a kind of neural hiccup, arising when there is a slight delay or asynchrony in the way sensory input is processed. Imagine for a moment that the brain's pathways for the left and right eyes transmit visual information with a tiny lag. If the same scene is processed twice in rapid succession, the second pass may be interpreted as strangely familiar, even though it is objectively new. Alternatively, a brief disruption in attention, a daydream, a moment of distraction, may cause the mind to process the same stimulus twice, leading to a sense of repetition. Another possibility is that déjà vu reflects the brain's habit of making predictions. The cortex is not a passive receiver of information, but an active generator of expectations, constantly comparing incoming data to its own internal models. When the match is close but not perfect, the result may be a sensation of near familiarity, a ghostly echo of recognition without recall. The richness of these scientific accounts stands in contrast to the myths and mysteries that have long swirled around déjà vu. In earlier centuries, before the brain's secrets were revealed, the sensation was often taken as evidence of reincarnation, a fleeting memory of a previous life. Others saw it as a psychic glimpse into the future, or a sign of parallel universes brushing against our own. The truth, though less fantastical, is no less wondrous. Déjà vu is a testament to the subtlety and fallibility of the brain's memory systems, a reminder that our sense of reality is always being constructed, moment by moment, from fragile threads of perception and recollection. To delve deeper into the neural choreography of déjà vu, consider the concept of pattern completion. The hippocampus and its surrounding cortices excel at recognizing partial cues and filling in the gaps, completing the picture based on past experience. This is what allows us to recognize a melody from only a few notes, or a familiar face glimpsed in a crowd. But like any predictive system, it is prone to errors. Occasionally, a present stimulus may overlap just enough with the memory of a past event to trigger the brain's completion mechanism, even when the match is incomplete. The result is a sense of familiarity that hovers on the edge of awareness, unmoored from any specific recollection. This process is not limited to the visual domain. Déjà vu can be evoked by a snatch of conversation, a scent, a taste, anything that resonates within the architecture of memory. The olfactory system in particular is wired directly to the limbic system, bypassing the usual filters of conscious processing. A sudden whiff of perfume, the aroma of baking bread, these can stir half-buried memories, blending present and past in a fleeting moment of recognition. Yet the experience of déjà vu is not simply a matter of misfiring neurons. It is shaped by the brain's ongoing efforts to make sense of the world, to reconcile what is expected with what is perceived. The prefrontal cortex, ever vigilant, plays a crucial role in this process. It weighs the signal of familiarity against the absence of context, sometimes resulting in a brief sense of uncertainty, a tug-of-war between intuition and logic. This cognitive dissonance may be what gives déjà vu its peculiar emotional charge, the simultaneous conviction that an experience is familiar and the nagging awareness that it cannot be placed. Some have speculated that déjà vu serves an adaptive function, a kind of error-checking mechanism for the brain's predictive models. By flagging a mismatch between familiarity and recall, the mind may be prompting itself to pay closer attention, to scrutinize the details of the present moment. In this sense, déjà vu is not a flaw, but a feature, a byproduct of the brain's remarkable capacity for pattern recognition and self-monitoring. Despite the advances of modern neuroscience, many questions remain. Why do some people experience déjà vu more frequently than others? What determines the specific circumstances that trigger the sensation? Are there subtle genetic or developmental factors at play? The answers, as yet, are elusive, hidden within the deeper folds of the mind's labyrinth. As we drift further into this neural maze, the boundaries between memory and perception, between past and present, grow ever more porous. The sensation of déjà vu, so ephemeral and yet so profound, reminds us that consciousness is a fragile construction, assembled from the interplay of countless neural signals. In those brief moments when the machinery stutters, we glimpse the hidden architecture of the mind, a maze of connections, forever shifting, forever seeking meaning. Beyond the purely biological, the experience of déjà vu touches on the very heart of what it means to be conscious. It is a reminder that our perception of reality is always mediated, filtered through the brain's expectations and memories. The world we inhabit is not a direct imprint of sensory input, but a dynamic synthesis, shaped by what we have known and what we anticipate. In the end, the neural roots of déjà vu do not diminish its mystery, but deepen it. For even as science reveals the mechanisms of the brain, the subjective quality of the experience, the sudden rush of familiarity, the uncanny doubling of the present, remains vivid and strange. It is here, in the interplay between biology and experience, that the true wonder of déjà vu resides. As the night deepens and the labyrinth of the mind grows quieter, we find ourselves drawn toward the threshold of another question. If déjà vu is a window into the workings of memory and perception, what might it tell us about the nature of time itself? Does the sensation of familiarity hint at deeper patterns, hidden loops within our experience of the world? In the next turn of the story, we will follow these questions into the realm of memory's mysteries, where the boundaries between past, present, and future shimmer in the half-light, forever unresolved. There are moments in the deepening night when the mind drifts between wakefulness and dreams, and the boundaries between now and before blur. In that liminal space, déjà vu seems a more tangible phenomenon than ever, a memory felt, not recalled, echoing through the labyrinth of our consciousness. For centuries, it remained the domain of poets and philosophers, a curiosity to be pondered rather than measured. But as science found its voice and its instruments, the old questions found new forms. What is happening in the brain when déjà vu alights in the mind? Can the phantom familiarity be summoned, dissected, understood? The journey to answer these questions has been as intricate as the phenomenon itself. In the early decades of the 20th century, psychology was emerging as a science, its practitioners shifting from armchair speculation to meticulously designed experiments. Yet déjà vu, with its spontaneous and unpredictable nature, proved a slippery quarry. How could one study a feeling that came unbidden and vanished almost instantly? How to catch a shadow in the act of flickering across the wall? The first true pioneers were often neurologists, drawn to déjà vu not as a mere curiosity, but as a symptom, one that sometimes heralded the approach of temporal lobe epilepsy. In the quiet rooms of old hospitals, with their worn tile floors and sun-faded curtains, these clinicians listened to the stories of patients whose seizures were prefaced by intense, uncanny familiarity. Here, déjà vu became not only a mystery, but a clue, a signpost pointing to specific neural landscapes. Among these early explorers was the French neurologist Louis Nahum, who, in the 19th century, meticulously catalogued patients' reports of déjà vu during epileptic auras. He noted that the sensation often preceded a seizure, and that it could be accompanied by strange distortions of time, emotion, and perception. These observations sowed the seeds for a hypothesis. The experience of déjà vu might arise from brief, abnormal activity in the brain's memory circuits, particularly within the medial temporal lobe. Yet for all their insight, these neurologists were limited by the tools of their era. Their maps of the brain were drawn in shadows, guided by the lanterns of observation and inference. Decades flowed by. The world changed. Science changed with it. In the latter half of the 20th century, technology began to illuminate the brain in ways once unimaginable. The invention of the electroencephalogram, or EEG, allowed scientists to record the electric whispers of neurons as they passed beneath the scalp. When patients with epilepsy underwent EEG monitoring, researchers sometimes glimpsed the electrical storms that accompanied their déjà vu, bursts of activity in the temporal lobes, brief enough to go unnoticed by others, but powerful enough to conjure the illusion of memory. Then came the era of imaging, of machines that could peer into the living brain without a single cut. Positron emission tomography, or PT, was among the first. In PT, a trace of radioactive glucose is injected into the bloodstream, and as the brain consumes this fuel, the scanner detects which regions glow with activity. Later, functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, would follow, offering even greater resolution, allowing scientists to watch the ebb and flow of oxygenated blood as thoughts and sensations flickered across the mind. But even with these dazzling tools, déjà vu remained elusive. It could not be predicted, could not be summoned on command. It arrived unheralded, like a gust of wind. How then to catch it in the act? How to lure it into the laboratory's gentle trap? The answer, at first, was serendipity. Some researchers recruited people with epilepsy, whose déjà vu was more frequent and more likely to occur under observation. In these rare moments, as a patient described the rising tide of familiarity, the machines recorded the dance of neurons in real time. With painstaking care, researchers mapped the storm's eye to the hippocampus and the parahippocampal gyrus, structures deep within the temporal lobes, long known to be critical for the formation and retrieval of memory. Yet the question remained, was déjà vu merely an echo of pathology, a quirk of epileptic brains? Or was it a universal phenomenon, a thread woven through every mind, healthy or ill? To answer this, scientists needed to bring déjà vu into the laboratory, to invoke it in those untouched by disease. This challenge sparked a new wave of ingenuity. In the early 2000s, cognitive psychologists began to devise clever experiments to induce déjà vu-like sensations in healthy volunteers, using the machinery of memory itself. One of the most elegant approaches was the use of virtual reality environments, artificial worlds constructed from computer graphics, designed to mimic the complex, immersive familiarity of real life. In one such experiment, volunteers explored digital towns, their winding streets and houses rendered in soft polygons. Later, they were introduced to new virtual environments secretly constructed from rearranged fragments of the previous ones. The result was a strange, uneasy familiarity, a sense that one had walked these streets before, though the conscious mind protested otherwise. Many participants described a sensation remarkably akin to déjà vu. Behind the mirrored glass of observation rooms, scientists watched as familiarity flickered across their subjects' faces, The researchers recorded not only their words, but their physiological responses, the subtle quickening of the heart, the shift in skin conductance, the dilation of pupils. In some studies, brain activity was monitored as well, using fMRI or EEG, searching for the neural signature of this conjured familiarity. Again and again, the regions implicated echoed those seen in epilepsy: the medial temporal lobe, the hippocampus, the parahippocampal cortex. But the laboratory is not always a place of computers and wires. Some of the most profound insights came from the careful construction of psychological experiments, delicate arrangements of words, images, and timing. In one classic paradigm, known as the recognition without identification experiment, participants were shown a long list of words, their meanings and forms slipping quietly into the unconscious. Later, they were presented with new words, some of which were anagrams of the originals. When confronted with these scrambled words, volunteers often felt a surge of familiarity, unable to recall the original but sensing its hidden presence. Here, the machinery of memory was teased apart, recognition and recall, familiarity and recollection, each shown to be distinct and separable processes. Through such experiments, psychologists began to sketch the outlines of a theory. Déjà vu may arise when the brain circuits for familiarity are activated in the absence of conscious recollection. The hippocampus and related structures whisper, "I know this," even as the frontal lobes, responsible for conscious memory, remain silent. It is the echo of an echo, a ghostly resonance between sensation and memory, untethered from time or place. Yet still, the phenomenon resisted full explanation. Scientists probed deeper, employing ever more sophisticated tools. In the 2010s, researchers began to explore the microstructure of the brain with techniques like diffusion tensor imaging, tracing the delicate white matter tracts that tether the hippocampus to the cortex. Some found that individuals who reported frequent déjà vu had subtle differences in these neural highways, evidence perhaps that the sensation arises from the intricate crosstalk between memory systems. Other scientists sought to map the genetics of déjà vu, hoping to find traces of its origins in our DNA. Twin studies suggested a heritable component. Identical twins were more likely than fraternal twins to report similar frequencies of déjà vu. Yet the genes themselves remained elusive, hidden among the vast code of life. Throughout these explorations, the phenomenon itself continued to evolve. New varieties of déjà vu were described. Déjà vécu, the intense but false conviction that one remembers the entire unfolding of an event. Déjà entendu, the sense that a sound or phrase has been heard before. And even jamais vu, the uncanny experience of unfamiliarity in the midst of the well-known. Each variation offered a new lens, a fresh facet of the mind's kaleidoscope. To disentangle this complexity, some researchers turned to computational models, constructing virtual brains in silico. By simulating the flow of information through networks of artificial neurons, they could test hypotheses about the origins of familiarity. In one influential model, déjà vu was posited to arise from a mismatch between two memory systems, a rapid automatic process that signals familiarity and a slower, more deliberate process that retrieves context. When the first shouts yes and the second remains silent, the mind is left suspended in the strange certainty of déjà vu. Yet for all the elegance of these models, the lived experience of déjà vu retained its mystery. The laboratory could induce shadows of the sensation, but never quite its soul. The volunteers in virtual towns, the patients with electrodes nestled in their temporal lobes, the subjects puzzling over anagrams. They all reported something close, but the true déjà vu, the one that ambushes you in the wild, remains stubbornly singular. Still, the science marched on, gathering echoes, piecing together the puzzle. Some researchers began to explore the links between déjà vu and the brain's mechanisms for error detection. They noted that the regions activated during déjà vu overlapped with those involved in monitoring for mistakes, in signaling when something is amiss. Could it be that déjà vu is a kind of neural false alarm, a warning that the mind's predictions and reality have fallen out of sync? In this view, the sensation is not a failure, but a feature, a signal that the machinery of memory is working to reconcile the past and the present. Others probed the boundaries between memory and imagination. They noted that déjà vu was more common in people with vivid fantasy lives, in those prone to daydreaming or mind-wandering. Perhaps, they suggested, the sensation arises when the products of imagination bleed into perception, when the mind mistakes its own creations for reality. Still others wondered about the role of attention and distraction. Some experiments suggested that déjà vu was more likely when the mind was occupied, when one was tired, preoccupied, or multitasking. In such moments, the brain's ability to encode new memories was diminished, increasing the chances of confusing the novel with the familiar. Across all these approaches, a common theme emerged. Déjà vu is a window into the workings of memory, a fleeting glimpse of the machinery beneath our awareness. To study it is to stand at the threshold between the known and the unknown, to peer into the echoes that ripple through the corridors of the mind. And so, the search continues, through electrodes and scanners, through virtual worlds and whispered questionnaires, through the stories of those who have wandered the tangled paths of memory. Each experiment is a lantern, casting light on a small corner of the mystery. Each discovery is an echo, returning from the depths, hinting at the shape of the whole. But the phenomenon remains, as ever, a step ahead, slipping through the nets of science, leaving behind only the faintest trace. For every answer, a new question arises. What purpose does déjà vu serve? Why do some feel it often and others never at all? What secrets lie hidden in its silent corridors? As the night deepens, the mind circles these questions, drawn ever onward. In the distance, the echoes of memory beckon, promising further revelations, further mysteries, waiting to be explored. There is a peculiar hush that settles over the mind in the moments after déjà vu, a hush that is neither comforting nor troubling, but simply deeply curious. It is as though, for a fleeting instant, we have glimpsed a crack in the world's veneer, one that hints at secret mechanisms beneath the surface of experience. In the hush, questions echo. What just happened? Where did that moment come from? How is it possible to feel with such conviction that we have walked this very path before, said these words before, lived this fragment of time before? The sensation lingers, strange and familiar, a whisper that stirs the roots of identity and the boundaries of reality. Déjà vu, that flicker of familiarity, is not a phenomenon that can be measured in units or captured in a laboratory flask. It resists the clarity of numbers, transcends the boundaries of simple explanation, and yet it is profoundly, relentlessly human. To experience déjà vu is to participate in a mystery that unites us across cultures, languages, and eras. It is a phenomenon that has been pondered by philosophers, poets, theologians, and scientists alike, each seeking, in their own way, to make sense of this fleeting echo from the depths of consciousness. What does it mean, then, to possess a mind that is capable of déjà vu, to be a creature who can stand in the present, haunted by the sensation of the past? This is a question that reaches beyond the mechanics of neurons and memory circuits. It touches upon the very nature of human existence. For in the heart of déjà vu lies a tension, a paradox, between certainty and doubt, between what is and what might have been. Consider for a moment the architecture of memory, that invisible cathedral within our heads. Memory is not a flawless recording, not a perfect archive of experience. Rather, it is a living process, fluid, creative, prone to error and embellishment. The act of remembering is not simply the retrieval of stored images. It is a reconstruction, a weaving together of fragments, emotions, and context. Each memory we recall is shaped by who we are now, refracted through the prism of our current consciousness. Déjà vu seems to expose this process, laying bare the oddities and intricacies of recollection. That sudden feeling of having lived a moment before, where does it originate? Theories abound. Some neuroscientists suggest that déjà vu arises from a glitch in the brain's temporal lobe, where the machinery of recognition and novelty assessment resides. Perhaps, they propose, a fragment of perception is mistakenly routed through the memory system, triggering a false sense of recollection. Others posit that déjà vu is a byproduct of the brain's constant effort to predict and interpret reality, a side effect of the mind's ceaseless rehearsal of possible futures and plausible pasts. But these explanations, while elegant and plausible, touch only the surface. They describe the mechanism, perhaps, but not the meaning. For the true wonder of déjà vu lies not in its occurrence, but in its resonance. Why does this fleeting echo matter to us? Why do we pause, troubled or enchanted, when it happens? Perhaps it is because déjà vu reveals the extent to which we are creatures of memory. Our sense of self is woven from countless recollections, some sharp and vivid, others faded and uncertain. Memory is the thread that knits together the fabric of identity, the bridge between who we were and who we are. Without memory, the continuous experience of selfhood would fragment into isolated moments, unanchored in time. Déjà vu, in its uncanny way, reminds us that the present is never wholly separate from the past. Every perception, every sensation is filtered through layers of memory, expectation, and meaning. In this way, déjà vu is not an error, but a testament to the complexity of human consciousness, a signal that we are always living at the intersection of memory and reality. Yet there is more to it still. Déjà vu, with its strange sense of prefiguration, invites us to question the linearity of time itself. We are accustomed to thinking of time as a river, flowing inexorably forward, carrying us from the past into the future. But in the moment of déjà vu, the river seems to loop back on itself, creating a transient whirlpool where past and present are indistinguishable. Philosophers have long debated the nature of time. Is it an objective sequence, ticking away outside our consciousness? Or is it, as some have argued, a construct of the mind, an emergent property of memory and anticipation? The experience of déjà vu lends weight to the second view. For if time is not simply a matter of external chronology, but a subjective phenomenon shaped by the patterns of memory, then déjà vu provides a glimpse into the mind's ability to reshape, reorder, and reinterpret experience. In that sense, déjà vu is not just a curiosity. It is a window onto the mystery of time itself, an invitation to ponder the ways in which our consciousness is both anchored in and untethered from the arrow of chronology. There is a paradox here, a kind of subtle tension. To feel déjà vu is to be certain for a moment that one has already lived the present, and yet, with equal certainty, one knows that this cannot be so. The rational mind insists that the moment is new, while the deeper self insists that it is old. This contradiction is not easily resolved. It is a fissure in the edifice of certainty, a reminder that consciousness is not a monolith, but a mosaic, a collage of sensations, memories, beliefs, and intuitions, sometimes harmonizing, sometimes clashing. It is tempting, in the face of mystery, to seek comfort in explanation. But perhaps the true value of déjà vu lies in its capacity to unsettle, to provoke reflection. For in that moment of dissonance we are reminded of the strangeness of being alive, the sheer improbability of consciousness. What does it mean to possess a mind that can question its own experience, that can doubt its own perceptions? To be human is to live with uncertainty, to dwell in the in-between spaces where knowledge and mystery mingle. The ancient Greeks had a word for this state of awe and perplexity, thaumazein, the wonder that compels inquiry. To experience déjà vu is to be thrust, however briefly, into a state of thaumazein, a condition where the world is at once familiar and strange, where the boundaries of reality are blurred. It is a gentle reminder that the surface of experience conceals depths yet to be plumbed. If we turn to the writings of philosophers, we find a long tradition of reflection on the interplay between memory, perception, and reality. Plato, in his dialogues, mused on the possibility that all learning is, in fact, a form of remembering, a recollection of truths known before birth, now dimly recalled. While modern neuroscience casts doubt on such metaphysical claims, it is striking how déjà vu echoes this ancient intuition, the sense that there is knowledge hidden within us, waiting to be uncovered. More recently, scholars like Henry Bergson have argued that consciousness is not a static entity, but a dynamic flow, an unfolding process in which past and present are inseparable. For Bergson, memory is not simply a repository of facts, but a vital force that shapes perception at every moment. Déjà vu, viewed through this lens, is not a malfunction, but a manifestation of the deep interweaving of memory and experience, a glimpse of the mind's creative power to fuse, rearrange, and reinterpret reality. And yet, for all our theories, déjà vu resists final explanation. It remains an enigma, a phenomenon perched at the intersection of neuroscience and philosophy, of biology and poetry. Its very elusiveness is part of its charm. Like the play of sunlight on water, it dazzles and retreats, offering hints but never full disclosure. There are those who, in the grip of déjà vu, feel a shiver of the uncanny, a sense that the world is more mysterious, more layered than it appears. Some find in it a hint of destiny or fate, a suggestion that life may be guided by patterns larger than we can perceive. Others see it as a reminder of the limits of knowledge, the impossibility of ever fully comprehending the machinery of mind. But there is another perspective, quieter and perhaps more profound. Déjà vu, in its gentle, almost whimsical way, encourages humility. It invites us to acknowledge that for all our intellect, we are creatures of mystery, beings whose inner lives cannot be fully mapped or explained. The brain is not a computer. It is a living, breathing ecosystem shaped by evolution, culture, and chance. Consciousness, in turn, is not a problem to be solved, but a landscape to be explored. In this light, déjà vu is a kind of blessing, a reminder that surprise is possible, even in the midst of routine. It awakens us to the richness of perception, the strangeness of subjectivity. It suggests that there are corners of the mind yet unexplored, corridors of memory and imagination that defy our attempts at order. Each episode of Déjà Vu is a nudge, a gentle prod to stay curious, to keep asking questions. And so, as we drift through the shadowlands of memory and perception, we are invited to embrace the unknown. Déjà vu is not a puzzle to be solved, but a doorway to wonder, a fleeting glimpse of the infinite complexity within. It is an echo, a resonance, a reminder that the world is larger and stranger than we can know. In this sense, it is not a flaw in the machinery of mind, but a feature, a signal that we are, all of us, participants in the ongoing mystery of consciousness. As the night deepens and the mind grows quiet, thoughts of déjà vu linger. They hover at the edge of sleep, elusive and shimmering. What might it be like, one wonders, to live in a state of perpetual déjà vu, to see the world always as both new and familiar, to walk through time with the sense that every moment is an echo of something half-remembered? Would such a life be a curse or a gift? Would it drive us to madness or awaken us to wonder? The questions remain, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. But in the asking, there is a kind of solace, a sense that to ponder the mysteries of mind is itself a deeply human act, for in the end it is the questions, not the answers, that define us. The search for understanding, the willingness to dwell in uncertainty, is the mark of consciousness, the hallmark of humanity. And always, in the quiet spaces between waking and dream, the echo of déjà vu waits, patient, persistent, inviting us to listen, to wonder, to remember. And so, our journey through the shimmering veil of déjà vu drifts gently to a close, like a comet tail fading into the hush of space. May this quiet wonder linger softly in your mind as you rest beneath the starlit sky, and when your dreams awaken, return for more tales woven from the cosmic fabric of mystery.